The man who smiled at everything. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by green hills and slow rivers, there lived a man named Aaron. Nobody knew exactly where he came from. He simply appeared one morning, walking along the dusty road with a small bag on his shoulder and a calm smile on his face. The villagers noticed him immediately, not because he looked rich or powerful, but because he looked peaceful. In a place where people were always busy, always worried about crops, money, weather, or family problems, Aaron seemed untouched by all of it. He greeted everyone with the same gentle smile. "Good morning," he would say, even if it was evening. "Good evening," he would say, even if it was morning. At first, people laughed at him. "Strange man," they whispered. But Aaron didn't seem to mind. He simply found a small, empty hut at the edge of the village and began living there. Days passed, then weeks. People started noticing something unusual. No matter what happened, Aaron always smiled. If it rained heavily and flooded the fields, he smiled. If the sun burned too hot and dried the crops, he smiled. If someone shouted at him, he smiled. If children threw small stones at his hut as a joke, he smiled. This confused the villagers. One day, a farmer named Ramesh decided to confront him. Ramesh was known to be a serious man. He worked hard, worried a lot, and believed life was a constant struggle. He walked up to Aaron and said, "Why do you always smile? Don't you see what is happening around you? Life is not something to smile about all the time." Aaron looked at him kindly and said, "Then when should I smile?" Ramesh frowned. "When something good happens, of course." Aaron nodded slowly. "And when something bad happens?" Ramesh replied, "Then you worry, you fix it, you struggle. That is life." Aaron smiled a little wider. "I also fix things when needed, but I don't stop smiling." Ramesh shook his head and walked away, thinking the man was foolish. But the question stayed in his mind. Days later, Ramesh's crops were damaged by a sudden storm. He sat outside his house, holding his head in frustration. Aaron happened to pass by. He sat next to Ramesh without saying anything. After a while, Aaron said softly, "You are still breathing." Ramesh looked at him, annoyed. "Of course I am breathing. What kind of thing is that to say?" Aaron replied, "It means something important is still with you." Ramesh sighed, "My crops are gone, my hard work is gone, what is left to smile about?" Aaron gently picked up a handful of soil and let it fall through his fingers. "This soil is still here," he said. "Your hands are still strong, tomorrow is still waiting." Ramesh didn't respond, but something inside him softened. Aaron stood up and left, still smiling. From that day on, Ramesh began watching Aaron more closely. He noticed that Aaron helped people quietly. He repaired broken fences, carried water for the elderly, and played with children, but he never expected anything in return. And he always smiled. One evening, a group of young men decided to test him. They went to Aaron's hut and knocked loudly. When he opened the door, they pushed him lightly and laughed. "Why don't you get angry?" one of them said. "Are you afraid?" Aaron looked at them and smiled. "I am not afraid," he said. "I just don't see the use of anger." One of the boys shouted, "So if we destroy your hut, you will still smile?" Aaron paused for a moment and then said, "I might feel pain, but yes, I will still smile." The boys were confused. They expected him to react, to shout or fight back. Instead, he simply closed the door gently. Days passed and the village slowly began to change. People who once argued loudly started speaking more softly. Children who once fought started laughing more. Even Ramesh, the serious farmer, found himself smiling sometimes, without even realizing it. Aaron never gave speeches, he never told anyone how to live. He simply lived. And that was enough. Years went by. The village became known as a peaceful place. Travelers who passed through often said, "There is something different here." People seem lighter, happier. And the villagers knew why. It was because of Aaron. One winter morning, something unexpected happened. Aaron did not come out of his hut. This was unusual because he always greeted the sunrise. Ramesh grew worried and went to check on him. He knocked on the door. No answer. He opened it slowly. Aaron was lying peacefully on the floor, his small bag beside him. He looked calm. He looked as if he was smiling even in stillness. Ramesh called others. Soon the entire village gathered around the hut. There was silence. People didn't know what to feel. Some were sad, some were confused. A young boy asked, "Why isn't he waking up?" An old woman whispered, "He has left us." For the first time in many years, the village felt heavy. Ramesh stepped forward. He remembered Aaron's words. "You are still breathing." He looked at the people around him and said, "He never told us to be sad." Someone replied, "But he is gone." Ramesh nodded, "Yes, but what did he teach us?" The villagers looked at each other. Slowly someone smiled. Then another. Tears were still there, but something else was there too. Understanding. They decided to honor Aaron in a simple way. No grand ceremony. No loud mourning. They placed him under a large tree near the edge of the village, the same place where he used to sit and watch the sunset. Before covering him with soil, Ramesh placed Aaron's small bag beside him. Inside the bag, they found only a few things: a piece of bread, a wooden spoon, and a small mirror. Ramesh picked up the mirror. He looked into it. For a moment he saw his own tired face. Then slowly he smiled. Others came forward and looked into the mirror. One by one they smiled too. It was as if Aaron had left them one final message. Not with words, but with a reflection. Life continued. Seasons changed. Years passed. But the village was never the same again. Whenever someone felt overwhelmed, they would remember Aaron. Whenever someone faced a problem, they would pause, take a breath, and smile. Not because life was perfect, but because they understood something deeper. One day, a traveler came to the village and asked, "Why do people here seem so happy?" Ramesh, now older and wiser, replied, "Because we learned something simple." The traveler asked, "What is it?" Ramesh smiled and said, "That life does not become easy when you smile, but you become strong enough to live it." The traveler thought about this for a moment. Then he smiled too. And somewhere in the quiet wind that